Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Stats here. We're back with another tier list maker here. This part will be for receivers and tight ends. If you guys did not watch my running backs and quarterbacks core elite tier list, basically what this is, these are my predictions for elites in Madden 23, and I'm doing it by position. In this video, it's going to be the receivers and tight ends. If you guys have not seen my quarterbacks and running backs video, be sure to check that out. That is my last video on my YouTube. But here we go. I've got every single elite that was in Madden 22 last year, and I've got a rating all the way up to an 88 and all the way down to cards that I think will be golds. And I've got a couple golds in here that I think will easily be an elite. So let's get right into it. If you guys enjoy this video, throw a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Very first card I'm going to do is 88 Davante Adams. Davante Adams had another really good year last year. Not as good as his 2020 season, but I still think Davante Adams is going to be an 88. So we'll see how he does with Derek Carr being his quarterback. Next up is 82 overall Adam Thielen. I think 82 is pretty good for him. He had a little bit of a down season, but nothing too crazy. I like him at 82. AJ Brown was, I believe he was an 82. Similar stats to Adam Thielen. I think AJ Brown will be at an 81. Next is 83 Allen Robinson. He is now on the Rams. I think Allen Robinson is going to have a really good year now that he has a really good quarterback throwing him the football. But if we're grading his performance from last year, I think his overall is going to go down quite a bit because he really did not do anything in the 2021 season. So I think Allen Robinson will be at an 80 overall, but I do think Allen Robinson's going to have a really good year. Next is the tight end, 84 overall Mark Andrews. This dude is easily one of the best tight ends in the game, and he improved his numbers this year, and he got over 1,300 yards in receiving and had 9 touchdowns. This dude is proving his point to be one of the best tight ends. I think Mark Andrews should be at an 85. Next is Brandon Cooks. He was at an 80 overall. And looking at his stats, I don't know. I feel like Brandon Cooks had a really good year, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to get him any kind of upgrade. I see Brandon Cooks at an 80. Next is Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to stay at an 82 because he didn't really play much and he's suspended, so I don't see much happening there. Next is CeeDee Lamb. I think he is going to go elite this year. Here he did get over 1,000 yards in receiving and he had 6 touchdowns. I think CeeDee Lamb, I'm thinking he'll be at like a 80 or an 81. I'm gonna go with 81. Next is Jamar Chase, probably the best rookie receiver that came out of that 2020 class. What an absolute year this dude had, and he led the Bengals to a Super Bowl. This dude's going to be a beast in the future. Jamar Chase, I think he's going to be at like an 84 overall. Next is Cole Beasley. He was an 80 overall core elite. Dude didn't really do anything at all. I do think Beasley's going to go to a gold. Next is Cleveland Browns' newest receiver, Amari Cooper, was at an 84 overall last year. Basically, all of his numbers were down this past year. So I think he's going to get a bit of a downgrade. I see Amari Cooper sitting at an 83. Next is gold, Deebo Samuel. This dude was at a 78 overall, and man, oh man, this dude came out of nowhere this year. MVP caliber season, absolute monster, 1,400 yards receiving. He was used as a running back a lot with 59 attempts for 365 yards and 8 touchdowns. Yeah, I think this dude, he's going to get a big upgrade. I'm thinking Deebo Samuel's going to be between that 84-85 range. I'm going to put Deebo at an 85. Next is Stephon Diggs. He was at an 86 overall last year. Diggs had an interesting season. He started out really slow and he started picking it up towards the end of the season. He had 2 more touchdowns than what he had in 2020, and he still got over 1,000 yards, but I don't think Diggs is going to stay at that 86 overall rating. I think he will go down to an 85. Next is Steelers' Deontay Johnson. Sorry about the card art. This is made up card art, but he was a gold last year and he's been really consistent these last 2 years. I definitely think he's going to get that core elite status, and I think Deontay Johnson, I think they're just going to stick him at an 80 overall. Next is DJ Moore. DJ Moore was an 80 or an 81 or something like that. He had a really good year, a lot more receptions than what he had in 2020. Yards were over 1,000. He had 4 touchdowns. I think this dude is going to get a bit of a bump if he was an 80 overall, and I think DJ Moore is going to be sitting at an 82. Next is DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf was at an 83 overall, and I thought that was low for Madden 22, but his year for the year of 2021, his stats went down just a little bit, so I don't see them really bumping him up at all, so I think he's going to stay at an 83. Next for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 83 overall, Mike Evans. Mike Evans had another really good year. Pretty much all of his numbers went up, but not by a whole lot, but I think it's going to be just enough for him to get up to an 84. Next is 82 overall, Chris Godwin for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Godwin is making his case. He might be the #1 receiver there in Tampa Bay. There's 2 really good receivers there, and I think Godwin had the better season this past year. I'm not sure. It's tough. These guys are really close. He had 5 touchdowns over 1,000 yards in reception yards. I think Godwin is also going to be an 84 overall. Next is 87 overall for the Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins had an off year. I don't think he's going to maintain that 87 overall status. I think Hopkins will go down to an 86. Henry, another tight end. I think he will stay at an 81. Next is Vikings, Justin Jefferson. This dude had an amazing year last year and made his case for one of the best receivers in the league. He was an 83 in Madden 22, and I really see him getting a big jump, and I think Justin Jefferson will be at an 86. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking maybe I should put Debo up 1, but I've noticed with Madden, whenever there's a player that goes from a gold to a core elite, they have a really good year, they don't bump them up really far. I could see Debo at like an 84 or an 85 maybe. The way Madden runs things, he should be at like an 86 or an 87, but I don't think they're going to put him up that high, so I'm going to keep him at 85. Next, this is a big one. Atlanta Falcons, well, Tennessee Titans. Julio Jones, he was at an 86 last year coming into Madden 22, and he had a really off year. I don't think he's going to go down to gold, but I do think he's going to be around that 81 to 80 overall range, so I'm going to put Julio Jones at an 80. Next is San Diego Chargers, Keenan Allen, one of the most underrated receivers in my opinion. He was at an 84 overall. I believe he deserves to get bumped up. I think Keenan Allen should be at an 85. Next is tight end, 86 overall, George Kittle. George Kittle finally came back and had a pretty good year without injuries, pretty much ending his whole season. So his stats were good, but I just don't think they were that good enough to make him go up to that 87 overall range. I think George Kittle will be an 86. Next is for the Rams, 80 overall, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp have one of the most insane seasons a receiver can have last year, and I definitely think he is separated from a lot of these receivers here. The year he had last year is just incredible. No one was really close to the season he had. I think he's going to be at an 87 overall. I don't think he's earned that 88 yet because he hasn't been consistently doing this, but I think if he has another year like that, he is well due for that 88 overall. Jarvis Landry, another Cleveland Brown. He's now a New Orleans Saint. Didn't really get to do too much this last year, but I don't think he'll get bumped down to a gold. I see him at an 80. Next is 81 overall, Seattle Seahawks, Tyler Lockett. Lockett had a pretty good year last year, over 1,000 yards with 8 touchdowns. I think he deserves a bit of an upgrade. I'd like to see Lockett at an 82. Next is New Orleans Saints, Michael Thomas. As we all know, he did not play at all last year. So with that being said, I think he's going to get a downgrade, and I think Michael Thomas will be at an 83. Next is tight end Mike Gesicki. This is his, I don't know what this card is, but he is not an 83. He was an 82. He had a good year, so I do think he's going to get that upgrade. I like to see Mike Gesicki at an 83. Next is 81 overall, Odell Beckham Jr. This is an interesting one because the season that he was having with the Browns at the beginning of the season was not looking good, and he was definitely going to get a downgrade. But looking at what he did with the Rams, I think he will get an upgrade. He did a really good job that second half of the season with the Rams, and he did a great job in the playoffs as well. So Odell Beckham Jr., I'd like to see him at an 82 overall. Devontae Parker here for the Miami Dolphins. I think he's going to go gold. Next is Michael Pittman. This guy was a gold last year, I believe. What a great year this guy had. He went from 500 yards in 2020 to 2021. He had over 1,000 yards with 6 touchdowns. Really like what this guy's doing. He pretty much, he did double his receptions and then some. I do think he's going to get that elite status. I'd like to see Michael Pittman at an 81 overall. Next is tight end Kyle Pitts. This guy, I think, is going to be the best tight end in the league in a couple years. He had a slow start to last year, but he had a really good few games, and I think it was just enough for him to get that elite status. I think Kyle Pitts will be at an 81. Next is for the Raiders, Hunter Renfrow. I really like this guy. He's an absolute beast. I think he deserves an elite card this year. And I think, again, it's going to be another 81 overall. Next is for the now Tennessee Titans, Robert Woods. Robert Woods was at an 81 overall. He had a pretty bad year, but he got hurt, so he didn't really get to play too much. But I do think he's going to get a downgrade. Robert Woods will be at an 80 overall. Next is Panthers, Robbie Anderson, 81. I think he's going to be an 80 overall. Next is for the Cincinnati Bengals, 78 overall, T. Higgins. T. Higgins is one of those guys that, man, a lot of people sleep on him. He's an absolute beast there in Cincinnati. He had a good year, 6 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards with 74 receptions. I do think he's going to be an elite this year, and I think T. Higgins is going to be at an 80. For the Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin had a okay year. Yards were down just a little bit. He also got to play 2 more games than what he did in 2020, so there was a couple games there that he didn't really do that great. But I don't see him getting a downgrade, but I don't see him getting an upgrade either. So 82 makes sense to me. Next is Detroit Lions, TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson had to battle some injuries last year. He played 12 games, 61 receptions for 583 and 4 touchdowns. I still think that's pretty good for only 12 games, but I don't think it's enough for him to get an upgrade. But I guess I could see him at an 81, but I'm going to keep him at an 80. Next is one of the other 88 overalls in Madden 22, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is one of the most consistent tight ends in the game, and he's proven year after year that he deserves to be at that 88 overall level, and I do think he's going to be at 88 overall once again. Next is for the now Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, I like what he did last year. I do see him sitting at an 87 overall once again. Next is another really good rookie wide receiver. He's going to be alongside Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle had a really good year. I think he's going to be sitting at an 80 overall. Next is one of the most popular tight ends in Madden, and that's Darren Waller at an 85 overall. He had a pretty down year. He had to battle some injuries, and I think it's going to be enough to get him to a downgrade. Darren Waller, I think, will be at an 84. And then last but not least is New York Giants, Kenny Golladay. He was at an 80 last year, I believe. He had a really bad year. I do think he's going to go gold, no doubt about it. All right, boys, these are my predictions for the elites in Madden 23. If there's anyone out there that I missed, it is a high chance of that because I made this list myself and I was just looking off of ESPN's fantasy app. Let me know if there's anyone that I missed and what overall you think that person should be. But again, guys, that is tier list number 2. We've got quarterbacks and halfbacks in another video. If you guys want to do this, you can search this on the Tier Maker website, and this same list will be available to you. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm out of here. Peace.